going to bring up another one. So our 8th out of 10. So we're coming toward the end, folks. We have our 8th storyteller coming up to the stage. And when asked what food represents her and why, this storyteller said, the food that represents me is peanut butter because it is a staple comfort food and is just sweet enough. I love that. Please welcome to the stage our next storyteller, Valerie.
Yay!
Thank you. When I was 15 months old, my best friend was born. And by a happy act of fate, Sherry's also my sister. And we have one of those uniquely deep relationships that you can only forge through shared experience, going through the innocence of childhood and the awkwardness of adolescence, our sullen teenage years, and into the freedom of adulthood. We sometimes joke that we share one brain. We can anticipate each other's reactions and thoughts, and we fully feel each other's joys and heartaches. So of course it was with immense excitement that we approached the birth of Sherry's first child. The day I got the phone call that she was in labor, I was stuck at work. It was a stormy, rainy day. I sat on the edge of my seat for my last 2 or 3 hours at work, obsessively checking my cell phone, looking for updates, trying to stay connected. What was happening? Just needed to get there. Finally made it to the end of my workday and started the 5-hour drive from Charlotte to Camp Lejeune through this dark, rainy night. Got to Camp Lejeune 11 o'clock in the evening and was fully expecting to find this happy new family, just calm, peaceful, ready for sleep. It was our first indication that something was wrong. I got into Sherry's room and she was wide awake. She was energized. She was talking almost obsessively about the process of her labor and delivery. The next day, we continued to see more of the same, more concerning behavior, this inability to sleep. It was obvious that it was becoming uncomfortable for Sherry, more a heightened sense of irritation. By the 3rd day, we knew we had a medical emergency on our hands. Sherry was starting to lose touch with memories versus stories and her timeline. By the time we got her to the emergency room, she had forgotten that she'd had a baby. My mother and I wanted to let my brother-in-law get her settled in the room with the nurses. So we went into the waiting room at the emergency room. It was a beautiful early spring day. The sunshine was flooding through the windows. There was hard plastic chairs around the room. My mom and I, we were the only ones in the waiting room, and it was quiet. There was no music. There was only the hushed sort of hum of all of the activity in the emergency room down the hallway. We sat down next to each other and I took my mom's hand and realized the hand was sweating. My heart was racing. There was this fear, this anxiety, this unknown. As we're sitting there in this hushed silence, suddenly there's this piercing scream that breaks the silence. I knew immediately it was Sherry. I was on my feet. I could hear in the scream, I could hear her terror. I could hear her confusion. I could hear her desperation for help. I was moving towards the door before the nurse came rushing in and said, "I need Valerie." I made it into Sherry's room. I took one look at her and realized, with a heart that was both broken and overflowing with love, that I was the last person that Sherry remembered. So I put my hand on her back and I said, "Yes, just scream. Just let it all out. I'm right here. It's going to be okay." The nurse finally came with a shot to help Sherry sleep. She finally rested. And it would be days later, after a transfer to another hospital, that Sherry would finally get her diagnosis of postpartum psychosis. And it would be another year before she would climb through that battle enough to even say she had regained some sense of normalcy. And here we are, 9 years later. She is a beautiful, vibrant, amazing mother. She is a fierce advocator for and a gracious supporter of others who have lived perinatal psychosis experience. And of course, I am happy to say she's still my best friend. We still share our one brain, and we both will always know that no matter what, we will hold space for each other's screams, and we will always be an anchor for each other through life's storms. Thank you.
Yay.
Wow.
Woo!
Wow.